What do we do about our country with that? Because we have radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem.
That is Donald Trump doing something that I guess isn't going to surprise anyone. There's a moment. Will he meet it? Obviously, he's not going to. When America needs a responsible figure, someone who cares about everyone in America. Again, you're not elected by the people who voted for you, which I'll remind you for Donald Trump is less than 50% of the people who voted. You're supposed to be the president of everyone. And we have a country that is scared, and not just Republicans are scared. Many Democrats are scared as well. And Donald Trump decided I could do the thing that literally every other president in American history would do, which is just try to take down the tenor of the conversation. I keep telling people not to demonize people. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna demonize people. And I'm going to erase all of the right-wing political violence, which is still the vast, vast, vast majority of all of it. I'm gonna erase the right-wing political violence that happened on the exact same day that Charlie Kirk was shot. And I'm gonna pretend that it's a problem of the left so that I can get something out of it. He's gonna use callously and cruelly, viciously use the death of a person he claims to be a friend to get something politically. It's absolutely sickening. And then it gets even weirder, I guess, as he goes on. He just starts rambling about all of his political grievances. Take a look.
They're vicious and they're horrible and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders. The worst thing that happened to this country, because I've already solved inflation, costs are down. Look at energy costs. You're gonna have $2 gasoline pretty soon. I've solved just about every problem. The worst thing that happened to our country is when we let 25 million people in, many of which, and I say 80%, should not be in our country. They emptied their prisons into our country. They emptied their mental institutions, insane asylums. They threw them all into our country. And these stupid people, and some of them are stupid in terms of common sense, but they're brilliant in other ways. Biden wasn't calling the shots. It was the geniuses that surrounded, radical left geniuses that surrounded him on the, unfortunately, he used the Resolute desk. That's the one I used. I hated that he used it, but he used it. But they called the shots, and he didn't do anything. Look at what happened. The auto pen signed everything. He wasn't aware of anything that was being signed.
I don't often feel an abundance of empathy for the hosts of Fox and Friends, but I can only imagine how utterly bored they are as Grandpa rambles on. Come on, get to the point. So anyway, a lot of that was either nonsense. The idea that we'll soon have $2 gas when he's been going around for 6 months saying that it's less than $2 already. We have no inflation, even though we do. Costs are down, even though they're up. I don't know if it's just him lying, which would be bad enough for a guy whose reputation is that he tells it straight to the voters, that he spits in their face by lying about all the problems that they still face, or if the likelihood that he's been experiencing a series of micro strokes have resulted in him not knowing what year it is. Maybe he thinks that gas is $2 a gallon because he thinks it's 1994. I don't know. But anyway, he went on from trying to point his rabid gun-toting followers at the left to then ranting about trans people and all of that. It's absolutely sickening. Again, as far as possible from meeting the moment. Mark, I'm gonna go to you first. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's just, this is as you suggest, it's sort of this ramble, but what's in the ramble is the propaganda machine, which is always going with Trump. And it's the kind of thing that you see in Maduro does it, Putin does it, Orban does it. I mean, the facts have nothing to do with what the leader is saying. And the idea somehow that he could pivot off of the question that was really a sitter, which is, they're radicals on the right, they're radicals on the left. I mean, how are we gonna bring this country together? You could have gone so many different ways. And instead he just said, no, they're radicals on the left and they are crazy, lunatic libs who are destroying this country. And then he begins this screed. And as you suggest, all these digressions, and as I say, they just seem to me to be the sort of digressions that are associated with both the fact that he's untethered by reality and also that he just has to keep pumping the propaganda machine, which he does almost nonstop.
the line that we're seeing from many people on the right is that political violence is only a one-way problem. And of course, Trump, you and I talked about on Damage Report yesterday, John, how they were talking about the dangers of dehumanizing rhetoric. I mean, who more and who of greater prominence than Trump has used dehumanizing rhetoric to inspire and incite violence over the last several years in our politics? It's just an absolute mockery. But one thing I can't really shake is while Trump is doing this Fox interview, and I know we might get into the Yankees game last night and his dancing in the crowd and all that, JD Vance is the one flying with Charlie Kirk's widow and the casket. And then this morning at the White House, Trump is asked about his friend, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm okay. Hey, have you checked out this new patio furniture?"
It was insane.
He just does not care at all. It's remarkable.
Jordan, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that video is like psychotic. It would like, you may think, oh, Jordan, surely he's exaggerating. He must have said more. No, it was, I'm doing fine. Hey, by the way, look at these bulldozers. We're gonna have a fabulous, everybody's wanted a big ballroom. We're gonna have a big ballroom. He knew Charlie Kirk for years. Charlie Kirk is a close personal friend of Don Jr. And I know that Trump doesn't necessarily like his sons, but he seemed to like Charlie Kirk. And then, and by the way, people mourn in weird ways. But when he was at the Yankees game, they're filming him doing his little weird dance and everything. This dude does not seem to care at all what happened. And I understand some MAGA people will get mad at us for like pointing that out or whatever. He seems to care significantly less than a lot of Democrats do about this tragic killing. And but anyway, look, my fear is that Donald Trump is obvious. He's always looked for opportunities to consolidate executive power, to crack down on his political opponents. He has whatever, you hear a lot about free speech and free association, everybody's rights you've heard about this week. Donald Trump doesn't care about literally any of that. Many of his followers do not. So I am very worried that he is going to use this as an opportunity to crack down on those that he disagrees with. We're already largely seeing it. There's media companies that are like firing people, probably because they're worried that the federal government will come after them if they don't. And his willingness to once again give the green light implicitly to his followers.
I hate scams, especially the ones that target seniors, and Medicare's chock full of them. Between commission-hungry brokers and thousands of confusing plan options, most seniors aren't on the best plan for them. That's why I partner with Chapter. They're fully independent and they work for you, not the insurance companies. That's really important. They can review all your options in under 20 minutes, and the average senior they help saves over $1,100 a year. And the best part of it is, it doesn't cost you a thing. So if you're turning 65, call the number on the screen to connect with a Chapter advisor today.
Who are flooding the internet with like enraged videos about how they want to go to war with liberals, and Donald Trump is giving them the go ahead to do that. And so for every right winger that's like, these libs are being so callous, talk to your man, because he's the one that's inspiring it. In any event, well, actually, why don't we briefly play the final video, the video that Jordan had referenced with the Yankees.
Aaron Judge, he is some player, but he is some strong guy. He had the biggest forearms. I've seen weightlifters. I've never seen arms this big, and he's a fantastic person too.
Look, I understand. Maybe it's been 2 days. Maybe that's enough for Donald Trump to have more. But like, he just went off on vicious leftist and political violence, and then he's like, screw that stuff. Let's talk about this guy's forearms. They're jacked. This is not a serious person. This is not you cannot count on him to be responsible, to be human, to be adult, never to be a man. He just cannot be any of those things that you would expect a guy in this position to be.
But Jordan, he did lose the plot there, John. You're so right, so quickly. I mean, he's there expressly to talk about the capture of Charlie Kirk's murderer. You're at least supposed to feign a kind of grieving that you would think Trump could do. But as you say, maybe the expiration date on that is less than 48 hours. And then he's on to, talking about, something that you would speak about on an ESPN panel. I mean, it's the inappropriateness of it is striking. And because after all, he's a performer and he couldn't even stick this landing. It's really disturbing given the gravity of the situation.
I want to point out one thing on Wednesday. After Charlie had been shot, there was, of course, a lot of speculation. Will he make it? What condition is he in? And there was one report from the speaker in the Utah State Legislature that was circulated a little bit, but it wasn't until Trump himself announced it. And I think that was a coordinated effort on the right, because that's the role he wanted to play in that moment. He wanted to break the news, and then all of the legacy media outlets ran with it on his confirmation. And I think for him, it's not really about their friendship, the contributions to the Republican Party and the MAGA movement that Charlie has led and fed into over the years. It's because, yet again, this is all about Trump. And I was trying to think, like, when I watched that Yankees footage last night, I thought about, like, I've unfortunately lost friends, as I'm sure many people watching this have. The devastation that you feel in the immediate moment, and for the ensuing days, to go to a baseball game like a day later, granted it's 9/11 in New York, but still, like, to do your dance and then talk about that and point to the renovations at the White House. The guy is incapable of feeling any sort of empathy or putting himself in someone else's position. And this is weirdly like the most grotesque display of it.
Yeah, Waz was on the Damage Report this morning, and he pointed out, like, as terrible as like George W. Bush was after 9/11, he did some speeches where he seemed to care, and he was like trying to make people feel better. I mean, then he went on to invade a bunch of countries and kill hundreds of thousands of people, and he was terrible and mismanaged Katrina, and he was a terrible president. But he could at least be counted on to do that. Obviously, Obama always could be counted on to show the gravitas necessary. Also did some terrible things, but he could do that. Biden, for all my disagreements with Biden, could do that. Trump can't do it. And many of his base seem unable to even see what's lacking there. So anyway, just like I think about the video that like Bernie put out last night, like showcasing infinitely more capacity and understanding and compassion than Donald Trump is capable at this point.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.